What's up, everyone? It's the OOTP GM, and welcome to my first episode of my first series here on YouTube, a Detroit Tigers Out of the Park Baseball 18 General Manager franchise. I'm excited to be on YouTube. This is my first foray into this forum, so feel free to leave me your comments and feedback, anything that you'd like to see in future episodes of the series. This is going to be a pretty basic and general opening episode. All I'm going to do is talk a little bit about the settings that I use for my game, a little overview of the Tigers, why I chose them, and ultimately what I'm hoping to do with the team. So first off, I'm going to start off by going through the settings that I use for the game. I do not use the default settings. I like to change things to complement my play style. For those that are either new to the game this year or who are veterans of the game, in Out of the Park Baseball 18, they have a new mode called Challenge Mode, and it disables things like Commissioner Mode and some AI settings. I am not playing in Challenge Mode, and I will explain why as I go through my settings here. So the first change that I make is I set Scouting Accuracy to high. For me, it's just a personal preference. It doesn't make a huge difference, but for me, it's just a personal preference. Under Players and Face Gen, when it pops up here, sometimes it takes a second. You'll have to, excuse me. I set suspension frequency to low. Again, that's a personal preference. I also modified the batter aging speed and pitcher aging speeds. These are personal preferences for me. I feel like this helps to stop players from just declining severely in their late 30s. If you had it set to normal, a guy like David Ortiz would be a half-star player at this point, even though he was still playing really well late in his career. And I also changed talent randomness to 135. I like to do something like that. It helps to create more booms and busts and things like that when it comes to the draft. You can leave everything here the same, but I highly recommend you disable baseball cards. They just eat up a ton of space on your hard drive, and in my opinion, they're completely unnecessary. Now, under trading AI settings, this is one of the things that I change for personal preference, and one of the things you cannot change in challenge mode. In challenge mode, this is locked at hard and neutral. I like to do hard and favors prospects. It's a personal preference for me. I think it makes things a little bit more challenging, and it makes things more realistic to how they're done in real life. And the player evaluation ratings, this is my personal set. There's a lot of different theories out there onto which is the best. Some people like the default settings, which is like 65, 25, 10, 5 or something like that. There's people that are advocates for 25 all the way down. There are people that are advocates for 40, 30, 20, 10. I like 25, 40, 25, 10. That's my personal preference. Again, if it's your first time playing the game, I suggest using the defaults, and then you can always change it later. The only other settings changes that I make, if you go under rules, I highly recommend changing AI trading frequency to low. There are still too many dumb computer-to-computer trades in this game, and this kind of softens the blow a little bit. It's one of the things that they still haven't been able to fix in all of the different versions of the game. I also allow trading of recently drafted players. And another personal preference of mine, you don't have to change it, but I changed the spring training roster to 50 because of the way the managers treat the players in spring training. Some guys don't even get any at-bats, so it doesn't make sense to have all those extra guys in your spring training roster if they're not even going to get at-bats. Nothing over here has changed for me. In terms of financials, another thing that I like to change that you can't change in challenge mode is I disable the player development budget. The reason I do that is, in all of my years of playing the game, I have never seen a tangible benefit from having this player development budget. Some people claim that there is. I've never seen it, so that's why I choose to disable it. I think it's just wasted money having it in. But again, if you like it or if you want to use it, go ahead. For me, it's just a personal option. Here you have to change the names of the awards. This is like Silver Stick or something, or Platinum Stick originally, so I changed the names of the awards. And the other thing that I changed here is I did influence of popularity in All-Star vote. I did moderate. It helps to keep some guys that don't deserve to be in the All-Star game out. And in terms of the playoffs, I customized the playoffs to a best of 3 for the All-Star series. I do best of 3 and then home, away, home. For me, it's just a personal thing because I think your 162 game season should not come down to one game. So that's just a personal thing for me. And then stats and AI, everything else is the same. So those are the changes that I make personally to the game. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention to you guys real quick before we go over the team and I talk about my plans and end the episode is I like to make use of a feature called the Shortlist. Now, what I do here is I created a shortlist called Top Prospects. These are all of top prospects in our system currently. What I've done is you can create shortlists and you can add these players to this shortlist. So when you want to see how they're doing in the minors, you can just come to this screen and it's really easy to manage all of the prospects that you're interested in. I highly recommend that you give it a try sometime. The other thing that I do is I disable AI promotion. So that's what all these little lock symbols are. It means I control when these players move up and down in the minor leagues. The reason that I do this is because I've had issues in the past with guys getting promoted earlier than they probably should have, and so this way I can control when these players get promoted. In terms of the player rankings, they're pretty close to real life. Christian Stewart is our number 1 prospect here in the game. In real life, I believe he's the Tigers' number 2 prospect. Matt Manning is number 3 in real life. He's number 1. Burrows is 2 in this game. He's 3 in real life. So they're pretty close. There are some guys that are rated higher than they should be. Miles J is ranked number 5 in the game, but I think in real life he's like 15th. So that's just something to look at for the game. Keep in mind when you're playing. Now, the reason I chose the Tigers for this franchise is, one, they're my favorite team, but also I think they're one of the more unique teams you can do a franchise with. They're kind of in purgatory. They're trying to win, but they're saddled down with all of these awful contracts. They've got all these big-time contracts: Verlander, Cabrera, Upton, Jordan Zimmerman. All of these guys are signed long-term. So if the team is faltering, I'm going to look to try to move these salaries, move these guys if I can, to try and start the rebuild process in earnest, just blow the team up and start all over. If the team is playing well, then I'll look to try and keep this going as long as I can. But eventually this team's going to have to rebuild. It's just a matter of when we're going to start it. So if we get to the midway point of the season and the team's doing really terrible, I'm going to blow it up. But if they're playing really well, then I'll go ahead and maybe make a small move, not a big blockbuster move, but a small move to try and keep the team in contention. So if you look over the team, I had to make a couple of quick changes because the staff was not perfect when I first launched the game. So I had to get Matt Boyd in because he was on the opening day roster. So this is the accurate roster to what the opening day one was. Rodriguez the closer. Obviously, we're hoping to try to build around guys like Michael Fulmer and Daniel Norris, trying to build around those guys for the future. They're our future staff. And lineup-wise, pretty much the same players here. So that's what I'm looking to do here. And I'm going to go ahead and end the episode here. My episode structure is probably going to be 4 to 6 episodes per season. And the next time you guys see me, we will be at the end. So go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and feel free to leave me feedback in the comments section below. Thanks a lot. See you guys next time.